Democracy depends on a free press. Please support our independent journalism at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's military is continuing its assault on Gaza, killing at least 52 people since sunrise this morning. As Palestinian health officials warn of a growing hunger catastrophe 80 days after Israel imposed a total blockade on food, water, and medicine. The United Nations says no aid has been distributed in Gaza due to tight restrictions imposed by Israel, which has allowed just a handful of aid trucks into the territory in the last days. That's despite the UN's warning on Tuesday that 14,000 babies are at risk of dying without immediate aid. Gaza's health ministry says at least 326 deaths have been linked to malnutrition and lack of medicine since March, while 300 pregnant Palestinians have suffered miscarriages caused by nutritional deficiencies. This is a displaced Palestinian mother in Gaza City.
Life is very, very difficult. We hear about those aid trucks coming in. Some 9 vehicles, others say 12 vehicles, and it's all lies. We don't see anything sent to us.
The United Kingdom has suspended trade talks with Israel and will impose sanctions on West Bank settlers. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Keir Starmer called Israel's announcement that it would allow a small quantity of food into Gaza for its starving population of over 2 million totally and utterly inadequate. This is British Foreign Secretary David Lammy.
The world is judging. History will judge them. Blocking aid, expanding the war, dismissing the concerns of your friends and partners. This is indefensible, and it must stop.
On Tuesday, the European Union's foreign policy chief said the 27-nation bloc will review its political and economic agreements with Israel over the catastrophic situation in Gaza. Separately, Spain's parliament passed a non-binding resolution Tuesday calling on the government to impose an arms embargo on Israel. This comes as the head of the opposition Israel Democratic Party, Yair Golan, condemned the Netanyahu government's siege of Gaza during an interview with Israeli public radio.
Israel is on its way to becoming a pariah state among nations, like South Africa was, if we don't return to acting like a sane country. And a sane country does not wage war against civilians, does not kill babies as a hobby, and does not give itself the aim of expelling populations.
Here in the United States, President Trump made a rare visit to Capitol Hill Tuesday to push House Republicans to support a sweeping budget bill that gives massive tax breaks to the rich while slashing spending for Medicaid, nutritional assistance, subsidies for clean energy. One estimate shows nearly 14 million people could lose health coverage under the plan. The Congressional Budget Office warns the bill would trigger some more than $500 billion in automatic cuts to Medicare under the statutory Pay-As-You-Go Act. Budget negotiations continued through the night as a group of Republicans are pushing for even bigger cuts, while blue state Republicans are seeking larger tax breaks by increasing the deduction on state and local taxes. After headlines, we'll have more on the Republican budget bill with Bishop William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign. We'll also speak with ADAPT, the disability rights organization. The Trump administration's reportedly deported a group of immigrants from Burma and Vietnam to the nation of South Sudan, potentially in violation of a previous federal court order that restricts the removal of immigrants to a third country without proper due process. On Tuesday evening, U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy in Boston ordered Trump officials to maintain custody of the immigrants transferred to South Sudan to, quote, ensure the practical feasibility of return in case the court finds their removal is illegal and orders their return to the U.S. One of the Burmese immigrants flown to South Sudan, identified in court documents as NM, has limited English proficiency and refused to sign a removal order given to him in English only. This comes amidst increasing conflict and fears of a new civil war in South Sudan. In more immigration news, a report by the Cato Institute says dozens of Venezuelans, more than 50, who were transferred from the U.S. to El Salvador's Secat mega prison in March, had pending asylum appointments after they entered the U.S. using the Biden-era app CBP-1. At least one had a temporary visa, while 4 others had authorization to live in the U.S. through the refugee program. Democrats on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee grilled Secretary of State Marco Rubio Tuesday over his support for President Trump's agenda, including the deportation of immigrants without due process to El Salvador's Secat prison. Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, who in April traveled to El Salvador to campaign for the return of Salvadoran immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a father who lived in Maryland, said he regretted voting to confirm Rubio. Rubio shot back, calling Abrego Garcia a gangbanger while providing no evidence.
In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come, you're going to see who you went to defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated
Senator,
comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor.
Separately, Secretary Rubio told Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy he was not aware that President Trump is set to host a private gala dinner on Thursday at Trump's golf club in Northern Virginia for the top 220 investors in the Trump cryptocurrency meme coin, even though the event has been widely reported and will feature many foreign investors. The majority are from other countries.
Do you have a list of those foreign individuals who will be meeting with the president?
I don't. I don't know anything about it. I didn't even know there was a dinner on Thursday night, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is drawing backlash following a hearing in front of the Senate Homeland Security Committee Tuesday in which she botched the definition of habeas corpus. This is Democratic Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire questioning Noem about the constitutional right that safeguards people from being illegally detained.
So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President Lincoln used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea.
Democrats on the Senate Finance Committee grilled President Trump's nominee to be the next commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service Tuesday. Under questioning from Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, former Missouri Republican Congressmember Billy Long refused to state that it's illegal for the president to weaponize the IRS against his political opponents.
Is it illegal for the president to instruct the IRS to remove nonprofit status from a taxpayer?
I'm not going to have the answer that you need, and I apologize, but like I said...
Why are you not having the answer?
Meanwhile, Oregon Senator Ron Wyden said his staff has at least 2 recordings of Long's business associates saying they expect to get favors from the IRS once Long is installed as its commissioner. President Trump Tuesday proposed a missile defense project modeled after Israel's Iron Dome. Trump's Golden Dome calls for the U.S. to spend $540 billion over 20 years to launch a network of satellites that could track and intercept missiles launched at the United States. The project would likely be a massive boon to Elon Musk's private rocket company, SpaceX, which dominates the commercial launch sector. Here in New York, Columbia University's acting president, Claire Shipman, was met with loud boos and chants of Free Mahmoud as she walked up to the stage during the graduation ceremony Tuesday.
Please welcome the acting president of Columbia University, Claire Shipman.
The work of your generation will be to shape these interesting times, to define the values.
The peaceful protest was in reference to Columbia graduate student Mahmoud Khalil, who remains in an ICE jail in Louisiana after being taken from his apartment on campus by federal agents in March. Meanwhile, newly released surveillance footage from Columbia shows Khalil complied and cooperated with the officers after they illegally entered his private Columbia-owned apartment building without a warrant. The footage contradicts claims by Trump officials who said Khalil attempted to flee. Khalil is scheduled to appear in immigration court tomorrow in Jena, Louisiana, where he remains behind bars. To see our coverage of this story, go to democracynow.org. In media news, the president and CEO of CBS News has stepped down, becoming the latest high-profile official to leave the network. Wendy McMahon said in a memo to CBS staff on Monday, quote, "It's become clear that the company and I do not agree on the path forward," unquote. Her departure comes as CBS's corporate owner, Paramount, is seeking FCC approval to complete an $8.4 billion merger with Skydance Media. And as Paramount is in talks to settle a $20 billion lawsuit filed by Donald Trump, who objected to the way CBS's 60 Minutes edited an interview with Kamala Harris. FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez called McMahon's departure beyond alarming, writing, quote, "Independent journalists are being silenced simply because their reporting may threaten the ambitions of their corporate owners. It will only embolden an administration hell-bent on censoring speech and controlling content," unquote. And in Mexico, the personal secretary and an advisor to Mexico City's mayor were assassinated by gunmen on motorcycles in broad daylight Tuesday. Mayor Clara Brugada, who is a member of the ruling Morena party and is an ally of President Claudia Sheinbaum, confirmed the killing, saying her secretary, Jimena Guzman, and advisor Jose Munoz were shot dead in a direct attack. This came just hours after at least 7 young men, including minors, were killed as gunmen opened fire on a group in the central Mexican state of Guanajuato, where warring drug cartels indiscriminately target local communities. Residents are demanding justice. This is priest Jose de Jesus Perez.
We must never get used to this violence. We don't want to get used to the violent deaths, like those that sadly occurred yesterday morning when 7 young people were massacred.
The U.S.-backed so-called war on drugs has led to decades of violence in Mexico. An estimated over 450,000 people have been killed since 2006, while another 100,000 have been disappeared. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.